It's that time. It's flagship time. It's unlock the middle. It's Sunday. I know that half the country's watching that team from Arlington, but not us. Not us. We're not there. We're here making sure that we grow stronger together, learning from each other. Josh Tovar, proud principal of Memorial Pathway Academy and Garland ISD, Garland USA, here today because you know what? Tomorrow is another day of success, another day of making ourselves just a little bit better, like this guy over here always says, just a little bit better, but it's crucial because we all learn from each other. So it doesn't matter where you're at, whether you're in Alaska, whether you're in Hawaii, whether you're in Maine, or whether you're in Florida, or anywhere in the 48 in the middle, you're here. You're here joining us on the rebroadcast. Please make sure that you like and share it because that's the only way we're going to get all of this information, make it our own, fit our community, fit our campus, and that's what it's about. Making sure that we're together because we're part of the Fantastic Four. Fantastic Four. If you didn't see it, make sure you check out Principal Cafela's show the other day because we're all together. Different people from South Carolina, from New Jersey, from Michigan, and from Texas and Massachusetts. That's what it's about, guys. You're not alone. So if you go home and you're tired and you feel that steel blanket over your chest, that's because you're pulling all the weight yourself. You don't have to do that. You have all this free PD around you. So join us. Unlock the middle, and that's my story. What do you think about that, Dean?
I don't think there's anything else left to say, Josh. You steal the show every time we start off. Hey, listen, but you're absolutely right. If you didn't get a chance to watch Principal Cafeli's show on Saturday morning, what a great cast they had on there, and what a great opportunity to get a little bit better together. And I'll tell you what, Josh, you're spot on when you say that because in this business, it's a lonely business. And one of the reasons why we started this platform is to ensure that we bring great content to you out there just to make you that just a little bit better and challenge your thought processes because that's what it's all about, that continuous growth mindset. That's what we do. My name is Dean Packard, and I'm the principal of Charlton Middle School in Charlton, Massachusetts, and excited to be here again on a Sunday night. This is where we always find that talent out there that is just sizzling and ready to be shared with the audience. So, Josh, what's going on, my friend? You had a good weekend, I hope?
Everything is good right now because we're getting ready for another week. You know, we had that short week. Somehow, I don't know, I'm hearing from different team members around the U.S. that we connect through, this platform. And everyone had like a rough week last week. I don't know. There was something out, the new moon or anything, but you know what? It doesn't matter. We let that in the past. We feed, as in John Gordon's book says, we feed the positive dog. And that's what we need to do. And we'd like to do a big shout out because today is Chinese New Year and Tet New Year. So don't forget that out there. Keep that in the back of your mind because we need to honor all our different cultures, varieties, because we are truly a melting pot. Check this out right here. Look at this. That guy Massachusetts. This is
come on. You're my brother from another mother. You know that. That's just the way that it goes, man. We're all in this together.
So we're all gonna celebrate this brand new year, Tet New Year, Chinese New Year, honoring everybody. But you know what? We have an awesome guest promoting that beautiful book. Been hearing her on different podcasts, and you know what? She had that origin story here at Unlock the Middle. So bring her in.
Yeah, Ashley's been on a few times, and it's really good. Hey, before we bring Ashley on, I just want to quickly say how right you are when you talk about embracing today and forgetting about tomorrow and knowing that tomorrow is another day. Listen, we can dwell in the past and worry about the things we can't control, or we can be proactive and stop planting the seeds of things that just make it a little bit better for each and every child in our school, and each and every adult in our school, and our learning community. So again, those are things we have to think about as we move forward. Why don't you talk a little bit about Ashley before I bring her in? You know, Ashley's been here a couple of times. We're lucky enough to have her on our show, not only in different platforms, but now she's kind of risen to the top and she's taken a whole new trajectory, Josh.
Integral part of continuing professional development, which is what our Sunday show is all about. You know, and as you and Chris have evolved this show in the beginning, she was always a contributor to her ideas, her consulting, everything that she brought to the table to enrich the field of education. And now she put it in black and white. Don't forget, I should bring that book. She put it in black and white, and now she's spreading it out there because right now, with this gap that we have, I don't care what you call it, there's a gap out there. It's about making sure that we all work together, we use the right PD, and we enhance the learning, not only for the kids, but we enhance the learning for us, the adults, because that's the crucial part, is bringing everyone together and they all feel connected via the collaborative team process, PLC process. But hey, you know what? It's not my book. What do you
make me started on that? It's not my book. Way too much. Ashley, welcome back. I like to think of the word risk taker because you know what you did? You put yourself out there, you tried to build your capacity to a higher level, and look what you're doing now. Now you begin to travel the country, really planting seeds and really helping districts grow. So, again, welcome back, Ashley. And I'm going to start off this thing very simply. Ashley, talk about your rise, the origin of where you've been and where you're going, how you got there. Tell a little bit about yourself, what you're doing, please.
All right, I'll start back a little bit at the beginning for those of y'all that didn't catch me in some of the earlier episodes. But I'm originally from Texas. I was in the Texas Public School Education Center and working with, I was an instructional coach and working K through 6, all content areas. And I was a social studies lead. When I moved from Texas to Florida, I took a big life change, as you said, a risk taker. And kind of went out on my own and started doing some consultant work, contract work, working virtually with schools, coaching. And like you said, I wrote my book, Foundations of Instructional Coaching. And since then, I've been doing some conferences. I started working full time with a company called Reimagine Classroom, where we build curriculum content for clients and create professional development opportunities. And we've also started coaching within the company. So that is where I am now, and that's what we're doing.
That's awesome.
So, right now with the current, let's get into the meat and potatoes of this because part of your consulting, since a while. And thank you very much, fellow history teacher. I love that. Fellow Texan history teacher, love you for that. With the current obstacles in education, the pandemic, I dislike saying that so much, but there's still certain gaping holes out there. What does coaching look like with bringing kids back, recoaching kids in the learning process, adults also transitioning again from what was at home live, virtual, all that stuff? What does coaching look like now? What are you dealing with? What are you working with?
So I feel like we took a real step back from the instructional push that we were coming from at first. What I've seen a lot more now is on classroom management and building relationships because students came back from the pandemic. Some of them hadn't been in school, for a while, and then they didn't know how to interact with kids. Me and a colleague were just talking about this tonight with our own personal children that are kindergarten. When COVID happened, they were in pre-K and it shut down, and then they didn't go the next school year. And then they come back to school and all of a sudden they have to be in a building with these kids all day long. And they weren't used to that. And so a lot of kids were getting sensory overload and not in social awkwardness and not knowing how to interact. And so a lot of the coaching that I did post-pandemic leading up into this last semester has been just working with teachers on how to build relationships and community in their classroom, making sure the kids feel safe. And then building those classroom management pieces, building the parameters of what does instruction look like, what does school look like, how do we do this, building in lots of brain breaks, building in, structured talking times, like they just need a minute to have a mental break and have a time to talk. So just kind of redoing the way we thought the classroom looked like before. And so a lot of that has been my focus with coaching in the classroom. As far as working with teachers individually, I've really just been working on mindset coaching and helping them build their capacity emotionally, mentally, and just how, so many are getting burned out right now. And so how can we overcome? What structures can we put in place to help ourselves be successful? So a lot of my coaching recently with teachers has been more about the mindset coaching.
So let me ask you a question. As districts are coming out of post-COVID time period, they get a chance to restructure and rethink PD. What should districts be thinking about as they recalibrate the purpose behind PD and why it's so important to drive their districts and their schools?
I think PD is very important. I think it has to be intentional of what's going on in the school climate and culture at that time, and very intentional about what they need. I've seen a lot of this micro PD coming out now where we're trying to use the moments that we have most intentionally that we can, so that we're not overwhelming teachers and giving them too much at one time or taking up all of their time with PD. But I've also seen, like Josh said at the beginning, this world that we've created of this virtual learning and having podcasts and things like this that we can watch online. Teachers can get PD almost anywhere. And so I think really it's, what do they need and how can they get it, and how is that going to happen? So just being more intentional about it, and looking at new avenues now that we have past COVID.
No, what you're doing, your consultation, what are you pushing districts towards? That relationship building is obviously extremely important before any type of content's being taught. But what do you think that districts really need? And I'm just digging a little bit deeper with that content with PD. And I know that every school district might be a little bit different, but the idea of that new calibration of making meaningful PD, allowing your staff members to have say in what they think is important, is so vitally important. But more importantly, where is it going? How are we shaping the way schools are looking at PD?
We're really pushing student engagement and making sure that students are engaged, but we're also looking at that technology piece. At GPT is really popular right now, and is buzzing. And so looking at what are our kids getting their hands on right now, what is out there and what's going on that we can then use as an engagement piece in the classroom. How can we use it for instruction? How can we take the world that they're living in right now and use these pieces to make their learning more intentional? How can we use it to make the teacher's life easier too? And so I think when you're looking at what, how the classrooms are changing and what the kids are learning, there has to be engagement. But what is engaging to them right now, and what's going on in the world that we can then use as leverage when we're working with these students?
Actually, I agree with the micro PD. I think that I never thought about that term, because that's what at our home we're doing the last 30 minutes of school. We had carved out time, but we never really facilitated it or implemented anything that was structured. It was made to help move the kids out for the day for the buses and provide safety. But there was an ability to where we started cutting up the groups, and approximately 30 minutes, 25 minutes would be for PD, short little snapshots. Don't give them too much, because it's the end of the day. But that creates you need to have that established. And sometimes it's not easy at the very beginning, establishing a culture of PD, a culture of coaching PD, because it's something we've never done before. And especially at the end of the day. So, some situations that happen as we established it the last couple of this week that we started. But right now we need to analyze. We need to use that data analysis. We need to find out, the 4 PLC questions in the collaborative teams. Really, because right now the problem I feel is, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that 4th question: what do we do when they know it? Because if you have a lot of kids that don't know a concept, and you have 4 or 5 of them that already know it and they're masters of it, what's going to create discipline issues? So if we don't fine tune together, so what does it take? Tell me, coach me right now. What does it take? Well, what's the importance of creating this coaching culture on a campus?
I think it's very important. And I think it starts from the head down, honestly. I think, like what you're just saying, how you carved out time in your day to make sure that y'all can have those micro PDs. I think when the leaders on the campuses make sure that it is important and that they model what they want happening on their campus, and they're making time for that, then others see that. I think giving the teachers choice and voice also in this helps build that culture. One of the things that I saw in school districts was that they felt like they were being told that they had to go, or told that they had to do it. They didn't have a voice. So I think when you can turn it back around to the teacher and you're giving them choice and voice in this, it builds that culture of collaboration. That culture of coaching is easier, more attainable. And I think, and then with the PD, I think the PLC is one of the most important places where teachers learn. And if you don't have efficient PLCs running, then it is going to hinder the growth of the campus. And it is one of those pieces, like you said, where you're looking at that student data and you're differentiating for your students. What am I going to do for my higher kids? What am I going to do for my lower kids? And you're working together and you're a team. And I think having that PLC time and giving the teachers the chance to look at that data and dig into it and make those plans together as a team builds them closer together. And then there is this culture of collaboration, not so much you're telling me what to do and I have to go do it. I have ownership of this. This is what I see with my kids, and this is what I'm going to do to help work in all these areas.
When we look at universal design for learning, we want teachers to offer choice and voice to their students. We as administrators are doing the same thing with just a larger class. Our class is 75 to 100 strong sometimes with our staff members. And you're right. Empowerment comes from that, be able to have that voice and driving what's important to them as educators within a building. There's no doubt about it. A simple question for you, Ashley, maybe you can help me out with a little bit, is how do you differentiate coaching for adult learners? What does that look like? And how is that? Where's the complication of that? How does it play out?
This is my favorite. So over my time as an instructional coach, I really learned that our adult learners are just like our student learners. They all have different learning styles. They all have different personalities. And then throughout different times of the school year, their emotional capacity might be at a different level. Their mental capacity could be at a different level. So really differentiating for your teachers when you're coaching them is really knowing your who. So when we talk about in the classroom, like, you have to know your who, you have to know your students, and then you adapt your lesson for those people. That's what I did with my coaching. And I did talk about this a little bit in my book. But I intentionally used different coaching styles with different teachers depending on what their needs were. There were some teachers that needed me to come in their room and model. They needed to see it in action. They needed to see it live. Then I had some teachers that just needed to sit down and plan with me, and we would plan it together, talk it out. They knew exactly what to do, and they could go back to their classroom. One of my favorites is the teachers that have rotations. I would go in and do a lesson. I call it copycat. I would go in and do a lesson first period, leave all the materials from the lesson I did, and then they would copycat it the rest of the day. And then they would get that space to experiment and take that risk with what they just saw and try it out in their classroom. And usually by the last period, they're like, okay, I got it. Like, I'm ready to go. And so I kind of fine-tuned 6 to 7 different styles of coaching that I could use with teachers based on what their learning style was and what they wanted, because teachers have different comfortability levels with coaching. And so making them feel comfortable in the situation and making them feel safe and that this is a place of collaboration. I'm going to give you some choice and voice in this, and I'm going to meet you where you are and differentiate it for you.
So when you're doing that, we all know that there's just like we all stated, there's different levels for our students. Well, also with our team members, we have a large number of brand new team members that have joined across the United States, and a lot of them don't have the natural general pathway from college, education department, doing their student teaching. They're coming from the alternate certification, and they might be open, they might not, they might be reluctant. So how do you bring aboard? How do you make them part of it to make sure that they feel that, look, this coaching is just like a defensive coach after you catch the ball. Offensive coach, you're on the sideline and it's happening live at that moment, and you're guiding them on what the game plan is. So how do you help bring in those team members that might be tenured season or that are brand new to make sure that they feel comfortable and they're not reluctant within this PD time, this micro P, whatever you want to call it, but so that they become better versions of themselves?
It starts with the relationship piece, and it starts with really taking time to know them and their story and who they are and where they're at. You have to start with empathy. I always start with a conversation. We sit down and we talk, and where are you at? What are your goals? What do you aspire to work on? How can I help and support you? And starting with that piece, usually most of the time, people will say, okay, she's listening to me. She gets me. She's giving me some choice and voice in this. Let's go. Sometimes I still have had some reluctant teachers even after that instance. And what I've noticed with some of these is that it really doesn't have anything to do with me, but it might be just a fear of change. Okay, so let's dig into that. Why are you fearful of change, and how can we figure out how we can overcome that? Some of them are fearful of being judged. So how do I show you that I'm not here to judge you? And usually it just takes a lot of dialogue and having those conversations and continuing to ask questions with a sense of curiosity, and not judgment, and really just trying to understand the situation and what it is so that you can help then, you know, help them overcome whatever that issue may be so that you can have a good partnership together.
Calibrative teams. In my building, we have PLCs. We have teams that look at data all the time. We have teams that deal with student learning. We have teams that have to work with parents and communication, things of that nature. So the term calibrative team within a campus and how that you actually make that evolve and better, where does that go in conversation? How do you do that? How do you plant those seeds to make them all on the same page?
I've never heard that term calibrated team, so that's very interesting to me. So
Collaborative.
collaborative. Okay. Okay.
Calibrated, all on the same page. You can look at it either way.
So
It's that New England stuff.
So tell me a little bit about that. Are these teams, thinking about these teams, are same grade level, same content area, or is it
Grade
different?
level. So they'd be grade level teams.
Right. If we go into solution tree and the whole concept of PLCs, the campus, their vision and all their institutes is that the campus is the PLC. But the actual unit that breaks down the data that makes sure it goes through the 4 PLC questions, those are the collaborative teams. And the DeForest always wanted to make sure that we use the terms correctly because they were very disappointed that we in the United States changed their concept of PLC meaning that. So in all the institutes that I've attended 4 at different parts of the United States. They always say that those are the collaborative teams. The campus is the PLC. And we're all working together and breaking it down because that comes from the people that created it. Solutions.
So how do you calibrate the collaborative teams to ensure the roadmap is one of equity and access for all individuals? How's that? Is that a better way to put that question?
Yeah, that's all. The only reason I asked that too about the grade levels is because I've worked with like the 6th grade team that they're all different content areas, and then how do you get buy-in from them to work together too? And so, but either way, I think it really starts with building the foundation that these are all our kids, no matter whose class they're in. They're all our kids. They belong to all our campus. These are our babies together. And so what can we do as a team to make sure that we're supporting all learners? I think sometimes teachers do get in that isolation of, well, this is my class and these are my kids, so I don't care what you're doing over there. But I think if you look at the data from a holistic point of view and really look at it from grade level to grade level, what is the growth looking like? Where are our strengths? Where are our weaknesses? And really focusing on that. And I think you have to be intentional about it too. The last district I was in, the K-2 literacy was really the area where we were trying to strengthen. And so, for a long time, all our PLCs were about K-2 literacy because that's where our focus was. And we had to be intentional about what we were talking about, what data we were tracking, and how we were looking at students. And if I had thrown other things in there, that would have got them off on a tangent or going a different way and not focused on what we were working on. And I think when you can have 1 to 2 goals for a school year, and that's really what you're focused on, you're going to get more bang for your buck because that's, it keeps on coming back. It's reoccurring. Every staff meeting you talk about again, every PLC you talk about again. And so there's that continual growth and there's that feedback and that follow through that happen when you look at it that way.
I love that you say that because you know what? I've seen schools, including my own over the years, that we've had a mountain of goals and we've never become good at any of them because we can't get out of our own way. So again, 2 to 3 goals that are collaboratively thought about from a systematic viewpoint. Think about that. All of a sudden, the schools begin to move. I love that you said that. Thank you for that clarification.
Hey, Ashley, just let's dissect that frog a little bit more. What are you seeing right now out in the different parts, the people that are speaking to you, the people you're connecting with, your book and everything? What are you seeing? How is that collaboration working on campuses right now? Are people still not shaking off the past? Are they re-getting with the news? What's going on out there?
I would like to say I've actually seen a lot of positivity in the places that I've been recently. The teachers are very encouraged to change. They're looking to do what they can for their students. They're excited to actually be back in the classrooms and kind of have more of a normal life. And they're working together to help their kids. I have heard, people got tired of the the terms like COVID slide, and we got to fill the literacy gap or the math gap. And, teachers were getting sick and tired of hearing all that. And now I feel like the groups that I've been working with lately are very empowered to look at their learners as individuals, not related to COVID. Where are we at right now? What are we going to do to move forward? And just working with our kids and trying to have fun and make sure they're engaged in learning. So I will say I've seen a lot of collaboration lately, which makes me feel great about education.
And how does it look from the alt certification people? How are they taking this, coming from the industry, from different parts? How are they working within these collaborative teams within the campus PLC?
See, I haven't worked with a lot of alt certs lately, but I will say in my experience, there are people that come alt cert that already have the gift to teach, and that's why they came there. They just took a different path and a different road, but they ultimately got where they were supposed to be. And usually they come in with an open mind and an open heart, and ready to learn and grow and do whatever they can to be the best teacher they can. I've also seen some alt certs come in and this was a second career for them, and it was not probably the best fit for them, and they have a little bit of a harder time because they weren't ready or they weren't prepared for it. So those situations, when I was a coach, I really leaned into those teachers, and I said, just use me, whatever you need. Like, I will help you, write your lesson plans. I'll stay up till 10 o'clock at night tonight with you, like whatever it is to help you be successful. And I've seen some overcome and I've seen some leave the profession. And it just kind of depends on, who they are and if this is what they're meant to do or not.
Josh, I wish that we had the time to be the coach like Ashley is for the people in our buildings. If we weren't running around putting out a million different fires, I would love to be able to sit down and help tweak those skill sets or add those tools to a toolbox, because every school should have the luxury of having a coach or some sort of opportunity to work with teachers. Just most teachers have the skills. They just don't know how to apply them. And you know what? And sometimes they're afraid to be able to try something different. And again, that coaching mentality brings that out. And as much as we try to do it, I think sometimes it's hard. But again,
you know what, Dean, I agree with you so much because, I'm blessed at the campus that I work in our little house, because even the other day I had the time, carved out time to ask the district to come and record me teach a lesson, and bell to bell, and then I put it out there so that the instructional officers gave me feedback, and I sent the link out to our team members so they could see it, because I also need to make sure that I'm there. I'm in the trenches. I'm showing them, if this is the expectation, I just can't fake the funk, as Principal Capella says. So it's one of those things. I agree with you, Dean. I wish I had more time to do that, besides just like formal and informal walkthroughs.
Sure.
Now, Ash, right now with all that you're seeing, all the obstacles that are out there, our team members, like you said, some of them are already facing that adversity of hitting the wall, for lack of a better term. How can they find balance? What are you seeing? What kind of method can they find balance with and continue in the field?
It might seem cliche, but I really think you have to take care of yourself. And self-care is part of that. I think that anything that brings you a little bit of joy or helps you feel a little bit less stress is something that you need to do. One of mine is podcasts. I listen to a podcast every morning when I'm driving, and I intentionally pick motivational podcasts to listen to so that I'm in the right mindset when I get to work. And sometimes I learn new things on the way, and then I'm like, oh, I want to try that out. And so, podcast is one of them. A book that I've been reading lately by Zach Bowermaster. It's a 40-day devotional for humble leaders, I think it's called, or something like that. But I've been reading that. And so that's been, feeding into my spiritual side. It's the new year, and we all have, things that we said we're going to try to do for the new year or resolutions. And so, I've been trying to work out a little bit more, but I also don't have the capacity to do like a 30-minute or 45-minute workout every day because I have kids at home and I have a full-time job. So I found this app that I can do a 7 to 10-minute workout whenever I can. And sometimes I do it during a break at work. If I have 7 to 10 minutes, I drop down to the floor and start doing a workout. And so I think it's figuring out what you need, to help yourself relax. Like, you have to find something, even if it's just one thing, to give yourself a break. And if you don't do it, then you're not good enough to feed into anybody else. If you don't fill your cup first, then you can't fill others. And so if you're overworked, stressed, and you're not feeding into yourself, then you're not going to be good at work. You know, I'm not a good mother at home when I'm like that either. And so it's finding that balance internally so that you can, you know, manage. And, you know, I've gone through seasons of life where I had to turn on the gospel music every morning on the way to work because I didn't know what the day was going to look like when I got there. So you have to figure out what it is for you that's going to feed your heart, feed your soul, and help you just find that balance.
So, Ashley, you're in New Orleans right now. You're not in Florida. You're doing something totally outside of we'll call it your comfort zone, but you're branching. Talk to us. What are you doing there? What's happening in New Orleans that you're doing right now?
Okay, so the Future of EdTech conference is going on in New Orleans this week, FETC. And so I'm here with the Reimagine Classroom team, and we have a booth here, and we are going to be showcasing our professional developments that we have, our coaching that we have, and I want to talk about that in just a minute too. And then talking to, you know, vendors about content creation and all the things that we do with Reimagine Classroom. I also have friends that'll be here from Teach Better that are going to be presenting at some things that I'm excited to see. Joshua Stanford and Ray, and so it's going to be
Tell them all we said hello, please.
They've all been on. I think Jillian's going to be here too with her
awesome.
with Edu Badges, so I'm really excited about that. So it's going to be a lot of fun. But I do want to say, like y'all were talking just a minute ago about, you know, as administrators, you really wish you had that time to coach in more to your teachers, and it's hard. And so one of the things that we're doing with Reimagine Classroom, because all principals don't have instructional coaches, so we offer a coaching service so that we can then push in with teachers and we can work with them. And we've built it on a platform of differentiating for those teachers and really starting with that empathy piece and making sure that we are, you know, listening to them and giving them choice and voice, but just really, you know, kind of being that service for those schools that don't have the capacity to have instructional coaches or campus, or don't have an administrator that has the time to get in there and coach those teachers, especially those new teachers or like those alt certs, like you were talking about, Josh, that really need the extra person. That's something that we're doing now. And I think that it's helpful for school districts that don't have that.
Ashley, speaking about coaching, do you have your book with you? Do you have a copy of your book with you? You want to hold that up for a second? There it is right there. I remember, and I had the pleasure of being actually one of the people to proofread that prior to it going out. And I appreciated being part of that little subcommittee of individuals. It's an outstanding book, and it's an opportunity for you to be able to really dig in and see education from a whole different lens. Why don't you talk about it a little bit, and then just talk about how it's helped you platform to another level.
Okay. Yeah, so I wrote this book after I left Texas and came to Florida, and I really wrote it because I just felt for instructional coaches who get put into that role when districts or schools decide, okay, we're going to have coaches now, and they go hire probably the best teachers that they have, and they say, here, you're going to coach. But then they don't tell them what to do. And so the first couple of years of my life as an instructional coach, I was just trying to figure out, what am I supposed to be doing? And so the book is really for those kind of newbie coaches, someone thinking about being an instructional coach, or even if they're like year 3 and they're like, I don't know, I might need something to jazz this up a little bit. It's really for those coaches who are trying to learn and grow and figure out, how can I coach and how can I be a better coach? And so I wrote about building relationships and all of my personal stories of things that I went through and what I learned from the reluctant teachers to the rudest teachers I had, and like, how did I overcome that, to, you know, working with PLCs, leading professional development. And I talk a lot about gentle accountability, because I think one of the hardest things for us as instructional coaches is that we get stuck in the middle between the teachers and administrators. And sometimes we are told that we have to do certain things, or teachers have to do them because they're mandates that have come down. And so how do we hold teachers accountable without taking away their voice? And so how do we impact and influence? You know, we can't control people, but what can we do? And so I call it gentle accountability. And so one of the chapters is about that. But I officially published this in September. And since then, I have been leading a couple of virtual book studies with groups of coaches. It is more of a toolkit, so you can go through it. You can take notes. It asks you questions. There's free resources in it. And so you can use it as kind of your own little PD tool guide, honestly, for anybody who's in instructional coaching. And so I've been doing that. I'm going to lead a couple more this summer. And then I've been going around to conferences, and I have free books here at FETC with me that I'm going to be giving out. So if anybody's at FETC, come by booth 3023, the Reimagine Classroom, and I have books. So,
what do you think of that, Josh?
I think that's fabulous. Where can they get that book? Tell them.
So it is on Amazon, or you can go to my website. My website is coachingaccess.net. And if you go there, you can there's a link to purchase it on there. If you purchase it from my website, I will sign it and send it to you. Or like I said, you can go buy it on Amazon. It's the same price either way. So
I just became a new instructional coach here in Texas. And I see this podcast. I want to reach out to you because you know what? I'm scared. I know I did great things in the classroom, but I don't know how to go talk to that seasoned veteran for 27 years that in the lounge says, I don't need to learn anything new. And you know, you got to go to her classroom next week. So how can they reach out to you just to get some guidance? How can they reach out to you?
I would say the easiest way is to go to my website at coachingaccess.net. All my handles are at the bottom. I have a personal Facebook group that you can get through there. It's called Confessions of a Coach. And if you join that Facebook group, then you get stuff from me all the time, and you can comment, ask me questions, send me a message, whatever you want.
Ashley, last question I have for you. Any regrets moving on in this direction and building a bigger capacity and really getting into it this way? Again, it's probably a loaded question. I don't mean it to be, but again, it's very easy to sit complacent and follow your role and do what you're doing in a district, but you took it a step further. For all you people out there who think you can't do something, Ashley's the person you want to talk to because she jumped out of her comfort zone and did something bigger than she believes she could do. So congratulations on that. So thoughts on that?
I will say it was a big risk. And probably for the first year, I was really scared. But it all works out. You know, I talked to someone the other day just about life's journey and the way that you go. And I really, truly think that everything that's happened in my life happened for a reason. I was led to the place that I'm meant to be. And so it was really hard at first, but I'm really happy where I am now. I'm very excited. I'm fulfilled. I get to work in an environment where I get to talk to educators all over the nation, even in different places of the world. I get to see what school looks like in Australia, in Canada, in New York, in California. I get to work on products that students are using in classrooms everywhere. I get to work with teachers in all the different school environments. And it is so eye-opening to see the things that are different about education in different places, but also all the things that are the same, and getting to see that perspective. And so I don't regret it at all.
I think your journey is just starting. I'm just going to leave it right there. And I'm going to make a prediction. Watch in the years to come what happens here, okay? You're going to go places. Just keep going. Don't stop. What do you think of that, Josh?
I think it was awesome. Thank you for being here today. Also, Fonz, thank you for being here. Jefe, Roz, everyone that joined us, Central. Everybody, thank you for being here tonight. That's what it's all about. Different parts of the country, being here, learning from each other, building capacity. From Ashley, her book, reach out, get that book, and it's awesome. There are awesome things going on. But guess what, team? It gets even more awesome on Thursday, the Red Zone. The Red Zone, Unlock the Middle. At what time, team?
9 o'clock Eastern time.
Come and join us as we talk about the state of current education with different leaders from around the United States. Thank you for being here tonight. Ashley, thank you for being here at the flagship show, Unlock the Middle. Best of luck in your conference.
Thank you.
Hey, guys, have a great week. Ashley, keep rocking it. You're doing a great job. Everybody out there, be good to kids. Make it happen. Kids deserve our best. Be well.